Right, today we're going to go over gaze stabilization exercises. I'm going to try and explain these very simply, and this is not intended to be a scientific explanation. It's intended to be so that you would understand why we're doing these exercises with you. And the reason for that is simply because we are wanting to train your brain to understand where it is in space, so that mechanisms that work in relation to that can do their job actively and effectively. Now, there's three parts to the system. There's signals coming in from the body. This is called proprioceptive signals, particularly from our head and neck. There's signals coming in from our inner ears. This tells us where the position of the head is in relation to the rest of our body and the world in terms of rotation and angular movements. And then there's signals that come in through our eyes to physically tell us where we are in the world. So it's very important that these signals homogenize, that they are together, and that we're not getting signals from one area and other signals from other areas, like we are getting with seasickness, where the body is feeling a motion, the inner ears is feeling a different motion, the eyes are seeing a different motion, and this can often generate something like motion sickness. Now, actually, many of us have this, but we're just not aware that we have it, and it's very fatiguing and tiring for the brain. So when we work with you with nerve and muscle issues, it's very important that we can rehabilitate this area. And these areas are rehabilitated with really easy exercises. But just remember that easy is not simple. These areas are extremely complex. They are constantly working because we're constantly in gravity. So it's important that when we see a little bit of dysfunction in them, that we try and fix them, because they're really easy to fix. And just because they are easy to do, just remember that they're not simple, and that we're literally actually reprogramming mechanisms that is in the background constantly running your brain. So the way we do these are with gaze stabilization exercises to start with. And it's very simple to do. We can look at an object in the distance, as long as the object is further away than our hands, because we don't want our eyes to be coming together. So a simple thing to use is your thumb. Or a piece of paper, which I'll demonstrate for you in a moment. So by looking at the very tip of my thumb, we can slowly recalibrate these areas by moving my head from side to side while I keep my eyes fixed on that object. Now, it's very important we do a couple of things, that we try and do a smooth motion of your head. You'll see lots of people, when they do these, will do a little bit of a shaky movement. So this is really designed to try and help smooth out some of that movement, but also to make sure that their eyes can actually stay on a target while their head is bopping it up and down, for example, while you are walking, right? So side to side. The second thing that we want you to do is make sure that you keep your gaze within 45 degrees so that both eyes can stay stuck on the target. If we go right over here, then you'll see my eyes is blocked by the bridge of my nose, and that becomes quite pointless because we need both eyes to work together. So we want to move 45 degrees to 45 degrees, and we call these horizontal gaze stabilization exercises, or simply we like to call these no-no exercises for obvious reasons. The third thing that's important is to go slow, or go according to a pace that you can actually do the exercise efficiently. What we really don't want is this. Okay, because my eyes can't stay focused on the target, my inner ears are getting very much mixed signals, and my neck is getting completely lost in space. We're not recalibrating anything in that case. We are actually making things worse. So what we really want to do is make sure we go initially start really slow, and then build up towards where you can go at a pace that you can match and not go off the target with your eye movement, and the head can stay nice and smooth. So this would be a good pace for me to work at, right? But you might have to go a little bit slower than that. I would start off with 10 no-nos, side to side. We repeat the same exercise doing yes movements. And you have guessed it, a yes movement is moving up and down, exactly as I'm doing now. Once again, this is not a neck mobilization exercise, right? We are working in 45-degree angles. We're not shaking my head up and down, and I'm going as fast or as slow as I can manage, keeping the movement smooth and keeping my eyes fixed on the target. Right, so we can use our thumb, but the best way really is just to use a simple piece of paper. Now you can see I've made some spots on this piece of paper. Right? There's a little star in the middle, side, up and down. So ideally, what we want to do is stick this somewhere and then sit in front of it, arm's length away, and do 10 no-nos, 10 yes-yeses, focus on the first one. And then turn our head, or our eyes, to the one that's on your left side, and repeat the same exercise, 10 no-nos, 10 yes-yeses, then the little dot on the opposite side, 10 no-nos, 10 yes-yeses, then the dot above and the dot below, and so on and so forth. Now, very important disclaimer. If you get dizzy or nauseous doing these exercises, stop at that point. And the next time you do these exercises, make sure that you stop prior to the point at which you got dizzy, because your system might just not be fit enough to complete this whole range of exercises, and we might be getting to a point that we call fatigue or overstimulation. And that's like asking your body to do too much, right? It's no point in us trying to train you to run a marathon by putting you through by training an ultra marathon, right? You start slow and you build up. And I don't know how much you can manage. So it's very important that when you do these exercises, you do it according to a pace and a volume that you can tolerate. So if you can manage all of those, great, then we work on with them. But if you cannot and you get dizzy at some point, stop. Make a note of where that was, and the next time you do these exercises, make sure you stop prior to that point, right? And we practice that. I would practice that for about 4 to 5, maybe even 6 days, and then from there move on. But it might be different for everybody. So every now and again, go a little bit beyond that point and see if you still get dizzy, okay? The last thing I would say is if you've got any vestibular problems, right? So if there is things like BPPV or other complex in-ear problems, and obviously if you've got an ear infection and those type of things, these exercises is not going to help you, and you may feel dizzy with them. Right, so this is the starting point for gait stabilization exercises, and I hope you get on well with them.